understanding, you always been vocal about the need for better vehicles in the space. So can you say what those particular points are where the OEMs need to improve to deliver better suited vehicles for last mile logistics?
The ICE vehicles have already set themselves a benchmark in terms of their quality, in terms of their build, in terms of their serviceability. As a customer, I am focused upon, am I getting the range that you have committed
Mm.
for my full charge? Is my vehicle able to carry the load that you have promised?
Mm.
Correct? Because I design my operations based on the specifications that are given. Can I rely upon your product so that because though I am a customer to you, I have another customer to whom I had to fulfill the SLAs. When I tell Amazon that I'm going to deliver these in less than 3 hours time, I better do that. So does your product and your service teams and the whole ecosystem, does it give me that confidence, right? That yes, take our vehicle and we are with you ensuring that you meet your SLAs.
Yeah.
So I think the battery management system, the range, then the load and the serviceability and the quality build. These are the, I would say, top 5 parameters which the OEMs and the startups need to be keen upon.
Also, Rajiv, we were doing a report recently and we observed the trend for swapping infrastructure coming up. And so, what is your take on it? Like swapping as a preferred mode for recharging as compared to fleet operators setting up charging infrastructure?
Avan India also works closely with Ola Electric. I went to their charging stations in Delhi, right? And the way they have set it up with one of our OEM partners is pretty awesome. You have Almiras available with batteries 24 bar 7 charged. You come, you have a card, you pay it up, take your empty battery, fit it up, bring that fully loaded battery, fix it up, and then move. Look at the way the convenience is built in, right? Such a beautiful thing. Now, again, I come from the customer's perspective. The second aspect, which is the costing aspect. If 40% of the vehicle cost is battery, the alternative is why can't I sell only the vehicle to the customer so that it is at least on par or at least 20-30% cheaper to ICE vehicle? So that same body is called generally a glider. Why can't I sell the glider? Number one. So then what about the battery? Like the fuel, you start paying me per usage. Then what happens to customer? Customer will find EVs attractive. So I think swapping, especially for three-wheelers, why? Because it is also ergonomically possible to handle those loads. Say, for example, for a four-wheeler car where the battery size is almost like a trunk, you really cannot, you need robotic arms, etc. So that's a huge infrastructure. But for this, a human being can easily pull out those battery, fix that battery, and then move on. I think going forward, both from the commercial perspective, right, disengaging the vehicle from the energy, right, game, and number two, from the operations perspective, so that the idle time for these vehicles is also lesser. Charging infrastructure, especially for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, should be the way forward. We should not have fixed battery model at all. If I were a smart guy, I would go to Piaggio Ape or Bajaj and then say, hey, you produce say 1,000 chassis per day, produce 1,100. You continue to focus on your diesel. I will take those rest of the 100 gliders and I will build the battery management system with the help of Ola Electric or Sun Mobility or whosoever, right? And then I will aggregate these two. Finish. And when you bring this, Bajaj guy is happy because his chassis are being sold. The customer is happy because he's getting it at a cheaper price. There are no much overheads. And the new players like Sun Mobility and Ola Electric, who are big giants who have got good funding, they are also happy because the ecosystem is getting developed. Right?
So, Rajiv, also we want to talk about the financing hurdles in EV space. And
Hmm.
you were speaking of that you are forming a SPV to ease those financing issues a little bit. So, we would like to know how is that shaping up?
First question, why are the EVs not getting the finance? Right? Now, bankers are happy giving housing loans, bankers are happy giving personal vehicle loans, etc. because they see an intrinsic value in that asset. If suppose for some reason you default to pay, I can still kind of take the possession of your asset and then liquidate it and then safeguard by loan. Right? The assumption is that if the bank has to liquidate these, there should be buyers. Now, among the electric vehicles, the first-hand market itself is still taking the nascent baby steps. Now, where is the market for second-hand buyers? You're able to understand, right? And then the depreciation of these EVs, unfortunately, because of the battery and the uncertainties around the battery management system, the depreciation for these EVs is much higher than the counterparts. Now, who is producing these products again? Again, none of the bigger brands are there into this industry. At least I'm talking from the cargo's perspective, right? So I think these are all the concerns we need to understand from the banker's perspective and respect it. So that is when we have realized that Avan Shakti as a company, and there is an OEM partner that we are working with. Now, if these both come together and then say that, hey, you know what, bankers, Avan Shakti has already worked out a business model of ensuring that these vehicles are used and money is generated. Now, I am an OEM, and this is my product and performance so far. Now, the OEM and the application, the logistics guy, are coming together. So that is when we decided to frame this particular proposal, and the paperwork is on. And then we started taking these proposals to the banks and then the NBFCs. And now they are saying, hey, finally somebody understood our concerns and trying to address them in action. Once that comes into picture, I think I think this is one of the biggest problem I would say Avan Shakti was able to attempt and solve, not just complaining that EVs are not getting funded. What we have done is at every hub, we have initiated this concept of guest house, right? So that these customer delivery experts need not go back to their homes. It is very closer to the hub. They're based there. They come in the morning, attend their duties, maintain complete hygiene. I mean, I must also thank my customers like Big Basket who have guided us through their safety protocols, etc. So this way, it gave a huge confidence to our customer delivery experts that I'm not going to put my family at risk, and at the same time, my income is not halted. On top of it, we also gave COVID incentives. So there is another product which we have, again, an innovative product which we have launched last year called Avan Excess Baggage. What is this Avan Excess Baggage? For example, when you have excess baggage, when you fly, you are charged around 500 rupees per kg. And then the customers do all kind of circus of moving these products to here. And I myself did that so many times, right? So we have realized that this is a pain point. Then we thought, how do we solve it? So we spoke to Airport Authority of India. We spoke to different operators such as GMR, GBK, all these players. And then we said, hey, we will install Avan excess baggage kiosks in the airport near these entry counters, right? The ticket counters. Any customer who has got an excess baggage, say for example, 500, he doesn't have to pay 400, 500 rupees. All he has to pay is almost 1/3 or 1/4 of that cost. We will ensure that this luggage would reach their destination intact, wherever they are in their country, right? We started on March 13th, right? And 26th March, since 26th March, right now Mumbai is still in lockdown. Our kiosk is still under lockdown. We have already invested so much money into the kiosk. We have invested into team, people, etc. And we thought, okay, it will get over in month of April or towards the end of April. But then we realized that it's not going to happen. Right? Then there were so many guidelines coming on news. How are we going to do this unlock 1.0, 2.0? How customers have to come to the flyers have to come at least 2.5 hours in advance, right? And they are not allowed to take so many luggages. They are not allowed to take cabin baggage. Everything has to go to check-in. If everything goes to check-in, then at the conveyor belt also, there will be huge crowd. Then I saw this as an opportunity. Immediately, I have called up the Make My Trip team. So Avan Excess Baggage and Make My Trip, we are working right now. Very soon, we'll be out in the market. And this product is, for example, when you make a booking on Make My Trip, you see add insurance, you see add meals, right? Going forward, after a couple of weeks, you will also see add Avan Excess Baggage. What happens is, we will come to your house, pick up your luggage, and ensure that this product is delivered to your destination in less than 24 hours time. Customer has to worry about nothing. All he needs to do is take a boarding pass, a digital boarding pass, walk in, and then just finish off this travel. His complete luggage problem is upon us.
So the customer can travel luggage free, totally, right?
Absolutely luggage free. I mean, this is going to revolutionize the complete traveling experience, right? And let me tell you, this is not a model which existed in the West, ran for about a couple of years, and then we picked it up. No. This is an indigenous, in-house Indian brains worked on it and developed it.